systems management, IT management, configuration management, client management, endpoint management, or whatever name you may know it by, has been around for a long time. And yet, we still hear about organizations who were breached because they hadn't deployed a patch that was already available, or don't have the real-time visibility needed to powerfully protect and manage their endpoints. Some still use manual IT processes instead of taking advantage of automation. It doesn't have to be this way. With Symantec Endpoint Management, you can manage, patch, and fully remediate endpoints to strengthen endpoint security and maximize user productivity. Symantec provides deep visibility of the devices and software being used in your organization, who is using them, and what state they are in. With historical and real-time data at your fingertips, you can make the right decisions and take the right actions, such as scanning for vulnerabilities and quickly deploying the appropriate patches and updates across operating systems and commonly used third-party applications. Symantec Patch Management is architected to provide the most efficient and scalable distribution of patches, even for low-bandwidth sites and remote or roaming endpoints located outside the corporate network. Remote users get the same software and patches as all other users, and do not disappear from your purview regardless of how often they connect to the corporate network. With Symantec, all users are managed the same, whether working at home, on the road, or anywhere in between. Symantec Endpoint Management further expands its value and capabilities through integration with other Symantec products, including Symantec Endpoint Protection, SEP Cloud, and Control Compliance Suite. Symantec Endpoint Management solutions strengthen endpoint security and maximize user productivity with the versatility you need in today's rapidly changing world. To learn more, visit go.symantec.com/manage.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host, Bob Bador.
Hey! Thank you! Thank you! This is, wow, great. This is why I love these user groups. You guys are very excited. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the official launch of IT Management Suite 8.5 and Go Solutions Suite 3.3. This is a webinar. We are excited to be doing this live from Chicago. I don't know if you'll see anything in the background. Those of you on the video, obviously you in the room are seeing it right now. We're live from Chicago at one of our endpoint user groups, and we've got customers, we've got partners, we've got Symantec people who are going to be spending 2 days locked in this room that is like a mile long and having a good time. We're going to be learning a lot of technical stuff, and of course, all of it is a part of what this webinar is all about, this official launch. And we want to thank our Chicago user group for helping make this happen. I want to thank all of you in this room who gave me such a warm welcome and have been so wonderful to be with. And I want to thank our winner, Mariah, who won a just brawl of a rock, paper, scissors competition to get down and win some prizes. But I also want to thank all of you, the millions who are watching this live on the webinar. I think that's an official thing. I'll find out later and get an actual number. But we're going to have a great time here at this webinar. I want to let you know we're going to have some of our Symantec senior people who are going to be here talking about our strategy. They're going to be talking about what's new. We're going to see some cool demos here. A little bit later, we're going to be bringing up some of our customers who have already got a chance to kick the tires on 8.5. And from them, you're going to learn some of their tips, some of their best practices, things that they've learned so far. And you're going to get to know from them what you can start to expect. That's going to be great. Now, throughout all of this, on the Bright Talk portal there that many of you have opened up on the webinar and those in the room, you can type in some questions. We'd like you to put in as many questions, things that you really want to know, get those out, because we're going to save some time at the end of all of this that we can go through those questions and just try to answer it for you. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're recording this webcast, so you'll be able to check it out later. And also, where I said that we're going to have 2 days of stuff going on today and tomorrow, we're recording all of that. We're going to make the materials and recordings of those sessions available, again, through the Bright Talk site. So make sure you download those after and be here next time, I guess is what I'm saying to those of you who are watching on the webinar. But it's great. We're all excited. You guys excited to get this going? Yeah. That's good. All right. Then, Let's get rid of me, who obviously knows nothing about what's going on, and bring on the people who really know. I want to get things started by bringing up Brian Barney. He is the Senior Vice President and General Manager of Enterprise Sales. Brian, it's all yours. Thank you so much.
Actually, is this on? Actually, one correction. I'm the General Manager of the Enterprise Security Group. So I'm actually the guy that builds the product. If something breaks, you can come and blame me. I'm very excited to be here. I'm very excited to be part of the ITMS 8.5 release. I think we've added a lot of new cool features to this release, and you're going to enjoy it. I went to the reception last night, and I talked to some of you. Got good feedback about it. I think we've got 100 people in the room already, and I don't know how many we have online, but I'm sure it's a very large audience. And so we're going to spend the next few hours learning about 8.5 and how it's going to make your life better. But first, I want to talk a little bit about Symantec, its strategy, and how our endpoint management product fits into that strategy. So you know Symantec. We've been around for 30 years. We're the world's largest cybersecurity company. And our strategy is really very simple. We want to build the best security products you can possibly buy, and we're going to tie them together in a way that makes them even more effective because they can support each other and then cooperate and coordinate as they find threats and remediate those threats. So we've built a platform that allows that kind of collaboration between our products. Now, I can honestly say I've been in this industry for 17 years. I spent 12 years or so at McAfee, 3 years at Sophos. The endpoint product that we have here, the email product, the web gateway proxy product that we have are really head and shoulders above all the other products I've ever been associated with in this industry. I can honestly say that. So we've got a very good, best-in-class, comprehensive suite. And we've begun to tie it together, as I described, in a platform. There was a component of that platform we shipped last month. It was called ICDX. That stands for Integrated Cyber Defense Exchange. It's a database that ties our products together so that they can exchange data, security events, security threats with each other, and coordinate their response. And then later in a month or so, we're about to ship the latest of our SEP endpoint security product, and that's going to have a cloud management console. And the cool thing about that is, as time goes on, all of our products are going to get managed through that same cloud management console, which is going to make it easier for you to manage. It's going to make it easier for you to coordinate policies. And it's just another way that we're tying our products together so that the sum of the parts is greater than the sum of the sum of the whole is greater than the sum of the individual parts for our portfolio. Now, our endpoint management product line is very important to our overall security strategy. And that's because we believe that the only way you can have a really secure endpoint, and that's very critical to us, is that you have a well-managed endpoint. The first thing you want to do to make sure that your endpoint is really secure is you've got to make sure that it's configured properly and that it's compliant with all the corporate policies, that it's updated, that it's patched. These are all things that you do with an EPM type product, an endpoint management product. And so it's critical to our portfolio that we have this product, and you can see that we've integrated it with SEP, we've integrated it with CCS, and as time goes on, we're going to integrate it with all of the different products that we have in our portfolio. So let's get into some of the details of this 8.5 release, and I want to invite up on stage Damon Covey, who is our Senior Director of Product Management for our Endpoint Management product line, and he's going to go through the details of what we've just released.
Excellent. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate that. Thanks, Brian. And I'll add my thanks as well for everyone who's in the room and then also those that are joining us on the internet. This is an exciting culmination of several years worth of effort. And this release stands tall on many incremental features as part of the product, but then also a number of brand new features that will set us up for success in the future. As Brian talked about, getting towards that properly configured endpoint being the most secured endpoint is what we want to do. So with that said, let's jump right into things and let's start talking about some of the features directly as part of the solution. So the first thing I want to do is kind of give you an idea. It's always a good idea, I think, for you to understand what are the things we're most heavily focused on, right? So let's not worry too much about the things around the outside. Those are some of the outcomes that we're working on. But the three pieces on the inside around security, productivity, and versatility, those are the things we want to make sure we're targeting to provide features for our customers that matter to you. Now let me help explain really quickly, what does that mean? Because some of these may seem like versatility, that sounds maybe like a little bit of a buzzword, but it's not, right? What we want to be able to do is, from a security perspective, as Brian mentioned, and you'll see some of these things we go through the webinar today, is tie in security-specific operations into the configuration management and make it easier for you to secure your environment and to make those machines and endpoints as secure as possible. So we'll talk about how we're doing that, how we're making that more of a reality every day. From a productivity perspective, we want to provide productivity for two main constituents, but really to support one overall piece. And number one is to make sure that the administrator is as productive as they can possibly be, right? So if you need data right away, we want to make sure you can get that data right away. If you need the ability to streamline a patch process, we want to be able to make sure you can do that right away. But also, at the end of the day, we're all here to make sure that the endpoints and the end users are able to do their job, right? So we need to make sure that those folks are also productive, right? So those are kind of the two facets we're looking at there. In terms of security, again, we want to bring that security configuration management together. And then finally, versatility. So as I go out and talk to, and one of the best parts of my job is speaking to a lot of customers. We're going to hear from some in just a few minutes that work with the product. And if you've got 1,000 endpoints you're managing versus 10,000, 100,000, there are a lot of similarities, but there's a lot of differences between those style networks. And so what we've provided over the last several years are things like our cloud-enabled management, our peer-to-peer solutions, and others that make this the most versatile solution for your environment. So what we can eventually do for you is no matter how complex your environment is, we're providing options for you to be able to go through and make sure that in your environment we can maximize your productivity and maximize the versatility for that particular environment. So with that said, let's actually jump into some of the features directly and some of the things that I'm extremely excited about. This first one, so we get into the security part of things. We want to talk for a minute about something we're calling time critical management, right? So for a long time, for the last 20 years, we've been kind of dealing in what I would call the persistent management world, right? Which this is the ability to do policy-based management of your computers, right? It applies to maintenance windows, it works with the agent checks back in, it updates, and it's a really good way to manage and make sure those machines out there are managed in an efficient way. That's still very valid today. But in today's ever-increasing world of targeted threats, right, and really white-hot threats that are coming out, you need to, in some cases, have the ability to go out there and do a real-time scan of your environment. So we're announcing in version 8.5 the ability to do time-critical management, which adds real-time functionality into the product. So you'll see this here in just a minute, but this allows you to quickly go out there and query your endpoints and find out something that maybe was not in the database, right? Or maybe it didn't check in for the last couple of days. So let's actually if you're anything like me, I like to look at the product, right? So let's actually take a look at the demo, and let me show you kind of what we're looking at here in terms of time critical management. So the first thing you're going to see is this looks a little different. If some of you are familiar with the interface, this looks a little different, right? So it's a modern HTML5 built interface, purpose-built for time critical management to allow us to get in and do that real-time management. So let's assume for just a minute that I've got a vulnerability that comes out for Office 2013. Could be anything, right? Any package. But what I want to do is I want to find out first what's in my environment, so what machines are actually out there, and then let's find out which machines maybe haven't checked in a certain amount of time frame, and I want to update those. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and type out Office Pro 2013. And do a search for those systems within my environment, right? So I'm going to get that detail and find out what machines are out there and bring that back. And I can actually, once I've done that, that's going to bring the CMDB information back and show me here are the Windows 10 systems in this case that have Office Pro 2013 installed. Now down at the bottom, you can see that I've got some inventory for some endpoints that are a certain amount of time out of date. Now I could change it, right? In this case, I'm seeing, okay, here's all my 2013 machines, and then you can see I've got 4 endpoints, and this could be thousands, right? This is just on my demo gear. It's showing you how many machines are out of date, right? So what I can do is I can actually update those machines to make sure that we do get the real-time inventory. Now, traditionally that might take some time. So what I want to do here is once I see that, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I can either scope that down to, if I want to say, show me all Windows systems or all resources, but in this case I'm just going to keep it scoped to everything that's out there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go ahead and run an update for inventory on those machines. Now anybody that's familiar with the software knows that this would traditionally take a little bit of time to do. And I'm going to go ahead and show you right in front of your face how fast this will happen. I haven't sped this up or slowed it down. So I'm going to run a real-time inventory scan on those systems. And what it's going to do is go out there, contact these machines that, again, I don't know because they haven't checked in a certain amount of time, and pull back and show me which ones in this case have 2013. It's going to do a full inventory scan, but I'm most interested in 2013. So it's almost done. So in less than 30 seconds, it went out, contacted those machines, brought that information back, and now adds that into the CMDB. So I can now see that, okay, it did succeed on running inventory for those particular machines. And in this case, even though I did the update, I can still see that there's only one machine, which is okay, right? Now I know that all the machines that are out there for the time period I care about, I know all the machines that are out there. Now what you can do from here is actually take an action on that as well, right? So once I've got my group built, I want to do something about it, right? I can save it as a target, I can update the inventory, things of that nature. In this particular instance, what I want to do, because I know there's a vulnerability, I want to run a task against these systems. So I'm going to come in here, and I've already got a task set up and assigned to deploy an Office 2013 patch out to these systems. So I'll go ahead and select that, search for that here. That will come up automatically, and then I'm going to run that task out on these systems. So just by selecting it here, you can see I'll go ahead and click to run the task, and that will run it out there on this one endpoint. So I've just done not only a search inside my CMDB, I've found out all those machines that are out there, updated the inventory for the ones that I didn't know what was happening with, and I ran a task out there to alleviate or remediate that particular situation on this machine. There's also a lot of other actions you can take. So one of the other things you can do that I'll show in final here is you could email the results, right? So if you wanted to actually let your CISO or your security team know, hey, I've done this, right? So be aware of it. It's happened out there. I can do that as well. So there's a number of different options that you can take there. Okay, so that shows you kind of an end-to-end what real-time management, and look for more and more information as we go forward coming up about this. So let's go back to the slides, and what I want to talk about next here is another one we're particularly interested in, which is the ability to have a SEP quarantine action taken on an endpoint if compliance data is not met. So what this will allow you to do is scan your systems, which we do today, right? But we can scan systems for certain vulnerabilities, and we'll actually be able to take a quarantine action on those vulnerabilities. And this works directly with SEP. And again, what I want to do, and one of the best ways to illustrate this is, again, to show you a demonstration of what this looks like. So let's come back into the console here. Now, to some of you that maybe use SEP, this may look familiar to you. So the first thing I want to do as I go through this is I want to, in my SEP console, I just need to set up 2 things. And those 2 things are, I need to go ahead and enable a host integrity policy to take effect on those machines. So I just come in here, set that policy up for however I want it to look, and then assign that out there to my endpoints. And then I want to set up a firewall, right, policy, which will say essentially if this machine, and you'll see how in a minute it actually comes in and we can do that quarantining. If this machine is seen in a quarantine, go ahead and put it in a quarantine state. So we can set that up on the SEP manager side of things and get that all kind of scoped down to the endpoints we want to, and enable those policies inside the console directly. So this will show you the direct integration. Now, from this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, I've just got a Windows 10 machine that's sitting here, and you can just see that I've got network access, right? I can ping Google, and I'm be able to bring up the interface or any other resource directly on the network, and so this will allow me to see that, okay, this machine is actually up and working. It's functioning normally, right? So now what I want to do is go over and switch over to the Symantec Management Console, and let's take a look at what this looks like and how this would show up on that side. So if I just add a SEPM server into this, right? So I just simply click on the credentials, add that in. I can also customize what the quarantine message is going to look like. So there's 2 quarantine messages you're going to get, one before you're quarantined, one after you're quarantined. So I can customize what those look like. But at the end of the day, this is all going into a use case here in just a minute when I set up a policy that you'll be able to see on the endpoint, right? So now what I want to do is come back into the management console, and I'm going to add a SEP quarantine policy here. Now this is where it gets really exciting is I have the ability to add this policy by CVE ID, right? So I can actually come in and search for, in this case I know 2 CVE IDs that if they're seen in my environment, I do not want those machines to have access to my network. I don't want them cut off from certain resources. I want them cut off from network access entirely. But I do want to be able to remediate the situation that's out there as well. So I'll go ahead and select those 2 systems. And then I'll choose what target I want to apply that to, what grouping of computers that I want to apply that to. So in this case, I'll just apply it to all Windows 10 machines and select that out there. And then I can, if I wanted to add computers for exclusion, or I can also set up a quarantine expiration date as well. And then I'll save that policy. And what's going to happen is you see through the demo here that I'll be able to save this policy, turn it on, and then on the endpoint, because this particular endpoint does not have those 2 remediation patches for those bulletins, it's going to go ahead and cut that machine off from network access. So I just popped up my pre-warning saying, hey, you're about to be cut off from network access, so be aware of that, right? So it's about to be quarantined. And of course, if I go through and I do a ping or I try to get to a website, it's not going to allow me to do that because it's eliminating me from getting to those network resources. So this, again, will take it off the network, right? So it's not going to be able to either be infected or infect other machines that might be out there by allowing for additional network access that's out there. Now, one of the other things that we get a lot of questions on with quarantine type options is, well, what if I got quarantined right now in my presentation? What if you quarantine the CIO as an example, right? What would you do about that? So first off, I can come in and I can actually see the computer quarantine status, where it's at, right? And I can exclude this device from the quarantine policy. So if I got that harried phone call and said, hey, you know what, you need to do it. Now again, the user would know, but I can go ahead and exclude that device and reverse the quarantine on the system. So you do indeed have a backdoor to be able to get back to that known good working state, and you can report on that as well. So back at the endpoint at this point, because I've reversed the quarantine, I'll have access back to the network resources that I need to. So this gives a nice ability there. So let's go back to the slides. And what I want to do here is talk about a few other things, and then really what I want to get to is some of our customers that have actually used it and are working with it as well. So one of the other things we're being able to do, we talked about this, this ability to do vulnerability-based remediation. So we've got another integration here with our Control Compliance Suite Vulnerability Manager, which has the ability to go out there and scan systems for vulnerabilities. Now this scans for not just endpoint vulnerabilities, but also config files, database files, network vulnerabilities, etc. Imports that information into IT Management Suite, and then at the end of the day, will allow you to automatically deliver the patches out there to those endpoints, right? So this is a really automatic way of setting that up and being able to deliver vulnerability-based remediation out there to your endpoints. So again, a very nice use case, especially for being able to compress if you've got a WannaCry, another ransomware attack. We can't wait 30 days anymore for those to get out in the environment, right? This can really compress your time frame to getting those white-hot vulnerabilities remediated within the environment. Let's talk for a minute about productivity, which I know is probably near and dear to a lot of your hearts, right? Being users of the software in many cases, and what we're doing with that. So we're introducing a new feature here called the Modern UI Workspaces. And what this is essentially, again, you'll see this is a full HTML5 browser agnostic experience. This allows you to get one of your administrators, maybe not a domain expert in the product, sat in front of the tool and working with it in a controlled fashion in a very quick way. Right? So it's optimizing the user experience. It's very easy to learn and use. There's not a huge learning curve or you have to work through 15 different screens. It's a very curated experience for your administrators. And it also, again, provides that automated, maximized user flexibility and agility, right? So this is, again, think about a level 1 worker, if you will, right? A help desk worker that maybe they're an intern and you decide to bring them on full time, and you want to be able to allow that person to come and they have domain knowledge, but they don't have specific knowledge around endpoint management. This is a way you can set them in front of that, lock their experience in, and they can do those tasks that are specific to them and do those very quickly and easily. In addition to that, we're launching our Ghost Solution Suite 3.3. We're also enabling a web console for that. So many of you, even very large customers, will use Ghost Solution Suite. So having a web console and the ability to have a guided path and an automated path for customers is very important. And so we're also doing the same and similar kind of thing by providing this modern UI style and the ability to go in and have a web console for this and for the entire admin staff. So if you've got 100 different Ghost Solution Suite servers, and you need to find a machine and run a job on that particular machine, this will help you bring those together, run that job accordingly, and then it also, of course, automates that process, right? So simple, quick tasks for common actions, things like imaging, moving a computer, things of that nature with built-in wizards as well. And then finally, of course, all of the Ghost Solution Suite functionality is available as part of this web console also, right? So this brings, again, that productivity to the next level in terms of Ghost Solution Suite also, okay? Now let's talk finally about, before we hear from customers, because that's where we really want to get to, is versatility, right? So we have for a while provided a solution which really is targeted towards getting you to 100% visibility and 100% compliance out there for endpoints, regardless of where they're located, right? So we don't care whether they're at home, whether there's someone on an airplane, sitting at Starbucks, what have you. We want to make sure we can patch those systems, right? So that's something we've been able to do for quite some time. We've added things like peer-to-peer, our cloud-enabled management technology, which I know many of you have adopted those technologies. We've added some new things in with version 8.5 as well. So one of the things that's been added in, if you look at the solution, is now, traditionally you can do direct updates to the endpoints, but what you couldn't do is you couldn't point, if you wanted to, if you had, let's say you had a few endpoints out there that are sitting at a remote location, and you just want those to go out to an update server out on the internet. You didn't want them to come back across the wire. Now we have that ability in version 8.5. And we've also implemented the new PSFX updates from Microsoft directly, which allows you to, in a much quicker fashion, kind of set a baseline, go back and manage just the differential bits around the patching. So more to come on that later, guys, but these are exciting updates. Of course, it's heterogeneous. We work inside and outside the perimeter, right? And all the other pieces around third-party applications, compliance reporting, et cetera, are all part of the solution. So this is really, again, rounding out and making sure that this solution can be as versatile as possible within the environment. The other thing we've added is peer-to-peer optimization for 365 updates. We've had peer-to-peer now for about 24 months, and it's received excellent reviews, and we've got a lot of customers that are adopting it. But one of the things that's happening is as 365 gets more and more out in the environment, those packages are large. We want to make sure that 365 has the ability to take advantage of that. So much in the same way that you can do this with our normal updates or any patch or any other software update that are out there, if the endpoint needs a new 365 update, we'll simply go out and check the peer group right first, right? So, hey, who's got it within my peer group? Who's got that particular package? And then the peers will know who has that, right? So in this case, if no one's got it, we're going to download that, in this case, for the first one, from the server, and then notify the other endpoints that we do, in fact, have that package. And then later, and this is not just for patches, it's for feature requests and updates as well as part of 365. And then later, let's say endpoint 2 needs that particular package, it can go back to endpoint 1 and request that directly. So this, in many cases, again, if you think about this, I mean, I've got a very simple branch office drawn up here, but many of you have very complex branch offices where you might have 100 people, 200 people, where it doesn't make sense to have a dedicated site server, or you want to cut down on your server infrastructure. This ability to work across patching, across software management, and then now across Office 365 as well, brings more and more of that versatility into the solution. So excited about the ability to have this out there as well. So with that said, guys, what I'd like to do is really talk again to some of our customers. I mentioned before, and this is the same for anyone in this room, is one of the best parts of my job, in fact, the best part of my job, and really the only reason that I continue to be excited about what I do is to make sure that you guys, as our customers, are able to adopt the software, to use it, and to get good success with it. So one of the things we do is we run an early adopter program, which what the early adopter allows us to do is to, of course, get customers up and running with the solution. We can also find any things that we may not have seen in our labs. We try very hard to get every bug and everything fixed before it gets out there, but sometimes we can't mimic certain things that you can do. So the great news is we have fantastic customers that are willing to work with us on the early adopter program and to get the solution up and installed. So I'm proud to have 4 of our early adopter customers here with us today. So guys, I'd invite you to come on up to the stage and join us, and we'll ask some questions here. So give them a hand, guys, for being willing to go first. And Mark, Jesse, Mike, Yashim, really appreciate you guys joining us and being willing to talk about your experiences with the software. So I'm going to start, we'll just kind of run this in roundtable fashion. So we'll start with Mark. Mark's joining us from Symantec IT. Symantec IT is obviously one of our golden adopters, right? It has been an early adopter for us and a great partner. But Mark, obviously we know who Symantec is and everyone understands kind of a little bit about Symantec, but maybe just give us an idea from your perspective, a little bit about the network that you're running in and what solutions you're using, if you don't mind, just kind of as a starter.
Sure. So in our network, we're pretty tight, pretty locked down. We are already leveraging the software portal coming with 8.5, as well as the Express updates feature. We try to patch and have everybody compliant within a 30-day period to be at least 99% every month.
Okay, and can you tell us a little bit about your, kind of your upgrade experience, right? Because you guys went from version 8.1, correct, up to version 8.5.
Yep.
So can you talk a little bit about that, how things went there, and maybe if there were certain things that you would like others to know, or it would be good for them to know as well, it'd be great.
Sure. Our 8.5 experience was actually very smooth, other than ourselves getting in the way of it. As an IT shop, we do small configurations here and there to make things work in general, but we found that we kind of drifted away from best practices, and those are the things that actually were catching us and causing us a little bit of delay in regards to the upgrade. But once we got those things cleared out, the upgrade went perfectly smooth.
Okay, so it sounds like a big takeaway from your perspective is, look at the best practice guides online, do some of those kind of things. But then, as you and I talked about before, I think some of the things that you've seen sort of maybe drift over time, or maybe we react to certain things and don't continually follow this best practice. Would you agree that kind of making sure that we're staying vigilant on that is also important?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, fantastic. Now, in terms of 8.5, obviously, you talked about software portal, right, being one of the things that you guys are doing. Can you talk a little bit about some of the things maybe you're looking forward to in terms of some of the new functionality that's come out with that release?
Sure. The time critical management is definitely something we're very, very interested in. Security company, we're very in tune to making sure all the devices are patched for anything that is super critical, any 0-day type of effect. So definitely something looking to do. Let's see, the other one was in regards to the SEP client health piece. We run SEP internally, as you can probably imagine, but we want to make sure that all the devices are running their SEP client with the correct definitions, that nothing has gone corrupt with it, make sure that everything stays up to date.
So it sounds like you've had good success using the kind of SEP built-in, the hygiene approach, right? The ability to use that from the same console that you're doing other configuration management from.
That is correct.
Fantastic. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, Mark. Really appreciate that. Let's maybe go over to Jesse here for a minute. So, Jesse, I don't think people may or may not know you and your company, so I'll let you introduce you and your company, a little bit about your environment, if you don't mind.
Sure. My name is Jesse Kozakowski. I'm an infrastructure architect for Aspirus. We're a healthcare organization in central and northern Wisconsin and the upper peninsula of Michigan. We manage about 12,000 endpoints, and we run ITMS and a lot of other Symantec products as well.
Okay, perfect. Can you tell us, I think what's on the tip of everyone's mind is, how'd the upgrade go, right? Tell us a little about your upgrade experience, maybe anything that stood out to you either during the upgrade or potentially kind of after the upgrade as well.
So we've talked about this before, and we've been a customer for a long time, 12, 13 years. So we've gone through a lot of upgrades over time. And the process just gets smoother and faster with each release. And this was no exception. We ran into one small hiccup during the upgrade process where things kind of looked like they stalled in SIM. And our NS log viewer showed us that it was just a connection problem in SQL Server. We restarted our SQL services, and the cool thing about it was that SIM didn't even drop a beat. It just resumed, picked up where it left off, and I wasn't stuck with partial installs or anything funky after the upgrade. So it was just done. And then some of the functionality in there that we get now, the time critical management that you were talking about, it's a couple of settings in the console. You turn it on, it's just enabled, and I hate to say it just works, but it just works.
We like that. It's absolutely, set it and forget it, right?
Yeah,
Is
right.
definitely where we want to go
that.
with a lot of
Yes.
that. So in terms of you obviously use a lot of Symantec products, right? We've talked a lot about that. So it's, it sounds like you're kind of seeing this, Brian talked about it earlier, right? But this coming together of security and IT operations, right? And having that well-managed endpoint be a very important part of the security posture. Can you talk a little bit about that, what that means to Aspirus and why that's important to you?
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of overlap, obviously, with our teams and with information security. We own a lot of the same products. We have our hands in a lot of the same products. Our team is responsible for the health and hygiene of a lot of those information security products. But some requests come up every now and then, patch management, getting reports with IT analytics on patch compliance that can go to our CISO. And our CISO recently asked about quarantining machines. So
Okay.
it's kind of timely that was a question that just recently came up, because now I want to investigate what we can do with machines that fall out of compliance and get those quarantined with the integration with SEP and host integrity.
Okay. Will you talk just a little bit more, maybe just to dig into that just a little bit deeper
Yeah.
about the quarantine use case and maybe why that's so critical to you guys? Have you seen that happen, or are you just concerned about other attacks that you might have seen out there in the environment?
Well, we've had, a good example was WannaCry, obviously. I think that was an example for everybody in this room. And an incident like that, it first starts as a conference call with all hands on deck, asking where are we at and how well installed is this patch that prevents this already. And we were already 93% patched at the time. But something like this would allow more instant refresh of the inventory on those patches. And with the quarantining, one of the things that I like, and it was you couldn't really see it in the demo or at the bottom of the screen, was you can enable a grace period, so that you could say, yes, quarantine this device if the CVEs if those vulnerabilities are there, but don't quarantine it until it reaches a certain grace period, a week out, 2 weeks out, giving some people some time to patch their systems before it becomes quarantined.
Okay. And I would imagine that you might have seen some machines taken out of closets and so forth, and maybe
Right.
brought into the
Yeah.
network that don't have the proper patches out there.
Absolutely.
So, okay, fantastic. Thanks, Jesse. Thanks so much. Let's maybe go to Mike, and we'll probably have time to come back around in a minute for a couple other questions as well. So Mike, maybe if you can, just give the folks an intro of yourself and your company and your environment a little bit, please.
Okay, my name is Mike Magyar. I am a server engineer at Janney. Janney is a financial company. It's based out of Philadelphia. We have about 3,500 endpoints, and we are using ITMS 8.5 for our environment right now.
Okay, fantastic. So again, I'll ask you a similar question, right? Maybe talk, if you can, a little bit about your upgrade experience, right? And a little bit about how that went. Obviously, we believe it went well, but what kind of things impressed you about that upgrade experience, if you will?
The upgrade was very smooth. It was successful. When we put it through, it took a matter of like less than an hour to download the media, go through the installation. Everything, the console was up as soon as the upgrade completed. We ran a couple of reports, make sure that everything was functioning during our migration. And the reports came out pretty quick compared to what it was on the old console.
Okay. And then you and I talked before in regards to some of the speed that you've seen with the newer version, especially with client task execution, things of that nature. Can you speak a little bit about that and maybe how things are working there?
Usually when you go onto the console, you hit the job and it'll take maybe 30 seconds or something to reflect in the console. From what I've seen through this upgrade process, I've seen it go a lot quicker. When we push out a job, quick task job, within 10 seconds, the machine has it, it reports back inside a console, and everything is completed successfully.
Okay, great. That's fantastic. And then in terms of some of the new features that are coming out, I think you mentioned before software portal is one of the things you're looking at. I know time critical management, some of the other ones, but can you maybe speak to some of the use case around that?
Software portal, we want to make our clients more self-efficient for self-service. So looking at the modern software portal, we can do a lot more things, put our company background on the back page of the screen. So when clients go there, they'll have the look and feel of it being customized to Gianni.
Okay. And when we all talked before, is it fair to say that not only providing that end user experience to make it more convenient, but also ensuring the users have the right application, the most secure application that you want them to have, would also be a critical part of that
Yes.
experience?
Yes, it would
Okay.
be.
And then Mark, I'm going to come back to you, so I'm going to kind of go out of order a little bit here, because I know Symantec IT, I know this because we use it internally, right? Symantec IT has adopted the software portal. You mentioned that earlier. Can you talk a little bit about some of the specifics around, why the portal was important to you and some of the security aspects of that as well, if you don't mind?
Sure. So in our environment, not all users have local admin rights. So when we deploy the software through the software portal, we're able to get it configured where it installs as system, and the local user doesn't need local admin rights. As we continue to move forward in our environment, we'll be locking down more and more users, so the software portal is going to be leveraged 100%.
Okay, fantastic. So really that kind of privilege access management and reducing that, in addition to the convenience, right? Again, the security aspects. Sounds like that was an important thing for you guys to be able to recognize as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. All right, great. Well, let's go down to our friend Yashim at the end. Yashim, maybe I'll have you do a quick, again, intro of yourself, your company, and your environment, please, sir.
Sure. My name is Yashim Green. I am with McKesson Specialty Health. We have about 21,000 endpoints all across the United States.
Okay. And then,
Yeah, that's it.
and then maybe talk a little bit about the upgrade as well, right? For you guys, how that went, and you've been a user for a while, right?
Yes.
So maybe compare and contrast that, if you will, on how things have kind of gone in the past. Do you feel like that's getting better, and how was it this time around?
Yeah, we've been using the solution for about 10 years or so, maybe 11 years. This time around, much smoother than any other installation in the past. Very fast, very straightforward. I mean, I hate to use the term click, 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 but that was really all we did. It wasn't a lot of customizations as we went through it. It was just pretty much next, 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 and just follow the wizard, and we were finished. As far as the things that we've seen with the upgrade up to this point, speed. I can push out a job to a machine, and before I can remote into the machine to actually see what's going on, either the task is already completed or it's already running. So a lot of times when I first saw it, I was like, no, something's definitely wrong. This is way too fast. But I would look, check everything, and the job was there. So awesome.
Fantastic. And then similarly, can you also speak about some of the new features that you're most looking forward to with version 8.5, and then how they specifically pertain to your environment?
Definitely. One of the biggest features we were looking for with the 8.5 is the modern UI. Working in the system all day, every day, you get used to seeing all of the different, tabs and different drop downs that you can access, and you get used to that. That's something that everybody in this room and a lot of people on the webinar do on a daily basis. But when you're on the service desk or the help desk or you're at ITC in the field, that is very convoluted. With the modern UI, it is very straightforward. You can type in the individual's name, and that can pull up the machine. You can type in the actual machine name, that can pull up the machine. They need something quick, fast, and straightforward. They don't need to be bothered with all of the minutia of where do I go next, where do I go next. So it's really, really nice to have that modern UI.
Okay, so it sounds like would be fair to say that there's still a need for the power user, if you will, but this kind of modern UI abstraction is going to let you get out there and touch more folks that would be able to easier consume some of the new features of the and functionality of the console to do their job, whatever it might be.
Definitely. I mean, I compare it to saying that if you have a smartphone and you can download an app from within the smartphone using the modern UI and the software portal, it's the same thing. Your end user can still get that app. Oh, I see this. We have this out here. I want it. Boom. They can click it. As long as it's an approved app, they can have it. And it also gives us the ability to standardize the software that we're putting out versus someone saying, oh, I want this version of Adobe or that version of Adobe, and, you know, just going nuts. You can actually standardize what you're putting out.
Absolutely fantastic. Okay, good. Let's do this, then I'll come back around the panel here for a minute, and then we may have some questions come in for you guys over the webinar as well. But maybe I think what's very helpful is, again, from a lessons learned perspective, right? Because, you know, you guys have gone where others will go, right, and dare to go. And so, you know, any kind of tips and tricks or lessons learned that you might have seen either with the initial install, maybe some of the cleanup beforehand or after the fact would be fantastic to know. So I'll just, again, start with Yashim, and then we'll kind of come back down this way.
The two biggest things I would say to anyone would be, one, make sure your SQL database is optimized. You know, optimize it as much as you can. Number two, do as much housekeeping as you can. It's very common for us to make 5 or 6 of the same type of jobs because we're trying to, you know, get all the tweaks in and make sure everything is working. And you say, oh, I'll clean that up later, and something else comes in later, never gets around, right? So go in, clean things up. Those would be the two biggest takeaways that I would say if I had to do something else today, it would be clean up and SQL database.
That's a good one, actually, because I think a lot of times in our society we're very reactive, which is good, right? Because we're very service-oriented, especially in IT, towards our constituents. But sometimes that service-oriented approach lends to a little bit of mess, right? Where you might have, you know, policies stepping on each other's toes and things of that nature. So kind of making sure that gets cleaned up and sort of we don't have policies stepping on each other's toes. Would you agree that that's a critical thing for us to do?
100%. And me and Mike were talking about it yesterday, and I think he's run into a lot of those same type of issues. You want to comment on those?
Yeah, the housekeeping is the most important part of any kind of upgrade for anything. That if you have multiple jobs that you say, okay, well, I'll just push it off for now. And then when you look at it, you see like, hey, why do I have like 5 jobs for this one particular application we're pushing out where I should only have 1? So before an upgrade process, just look at your console, look at your policies, turn off multiple policies that are pushing out the same exact thing. That's what I've seen a lot. And it's also good to delete the policies after they've been shut off for a time, because then you're not having all that information in your database. So your database will run smoother. When you do your maintenance policies for your database, it's not going to take a long time for all that stuff to come up.
Okay, fantastic. Any other lessons learned, Mike?
I would say we've gone through multiple, we went from hardware to physical. Just make sure that you look at the best practices when you set up virtual servers, especially for SQL. Make sure that you have all your resources dedicated for your SQL so you're not having any kind of lag time with the database. Because that's the most important thing, is making sure that database is fully functional and smooth. Because if it's not, you're going to have a bad front-end experience, and people are going to complain during that time when they're clicking on stuff and stuff is not going down.
And we talked about this before, but just for everyone's benefit, the planning for implementation guide is a very important thing, right? Because when you look at, you know, the IOPS and the resources you need to run that size of an environment, we've done a lot of testing and research to make sure we provide you with the proper benefit there. So I think that would be, you would also probably agree that
Yes.
would be a great resource.
That's one thing I would definitely look at first before I even plan to do any kind of upgrade to go from physical to virtual.
Okay, fantastic. Jesse, how about yourself?
Well, what I would say applies to any application upgrade whatsoever, and that's make sure you have your backups. We did run into an instance where our customized WinPE environment was deleted during the upgrade, but I mean we had that all backed up, so we were able to restore that quite easily, get that working again. You know, I think it's especially important anytime as an early adopter, maybe especially important to make sure that in case there's something that comes up, you've got it covered.
Sure. Okay. Fantastic. Mark, any parting comments in terms of lessons learned or things that you think others should know about the environment?
I don't think anything else. What everybody said there is pretty much, click, click, click for me in my head, thinking, definitely need to make sure we stay on top of all of that when we go to whatever the next release is going to be.
Fantastic. Great, guys. And again, let's give them a round of applause, guys, for being first movers. It's you may not ever realize this, and this is actually a good thing, but some of the things we find and we do early adopter programs before we go to GA, we actually will find some kind of last minute issues that will be fixed and addressed if there are any, and those actually make it into the final code you get. So in many cases, some of the sweat and tears that go into this definitely make its way out, and you don't have to have those sweat and tears. So really appreciate the folks being great partners with us on this journey. So we're going to have you stay where you're at, because I think, Bob, if I'm not mistaken, we've got some questions that have come in either from Bright Talk or the room or others.
Right.
And some of those might be for the folks on the stage. So
yeah, no, we've got a couple, and a couple are for the gentleman here. First question that we have here: were there any issues with deploying new agent upgrades to clients, i.e., client management or health?
Anybody want to take that one? We'll just.
We heard a lot of click,
open
click,
it up.
click. So
Yeah.
hopefully it was all good.
No.
Oh, good. Wow.
Yeah, really not. No, it was that. No issues there.
Good.
I would say maybe the only issue we saw, and it was kind of after the fact, was if you had some really old stragglers out there running really old versions, and you were no longer doing the legacy agent communication, those would show up in your log viewer as something you needed to remediate. But that was beside the upgrade. It was something that just needed to be addressed anyway.
Great.
Fantastic.
Yashim, you had more?
For us, it was really painless. I mean, we went from a 250 unit test group to about 18,000 agents upgraded in 4 hours.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was lightning fast.
That's
And
great.
that was literally a complete upgrade of the agent. Even most of the plugins were down by that time. So I didn't believe it. I was questioning things. I was like, no, this is not right. Something's
You should
wrong.
learn to trust
Seemed a
us.
little too easy. That's great. Okay, Bob.
All right, next
question.
one, hopefully another simple one. For time critical management, does this require any special hardware setup or extra purchase?
Yeah, so I'll take that one, and then if other folks want to jump in, Jesse, I saw you jump, right? So I do want you to
say
get in there.
no.
Oh yes, it does not. Yes, I will back up everything Jesse said, right? So no, it does not. That's actually the beauty about time critical management. It works across the same functionality we've got. In fact, it works with your cloud-enabled management servers, right? And the same functionality you've got. You don't need extra setup. You don't need an extra purchase, things of that nature. It's already part of the tool set. So that's the fantastic thing about TCM. And Jesse, it sounds like we're in vehement agreement on that one.
Now it's a yes.
Yes. Okay. Excellent.
Oh, I
Awesome.
threw you a curveball there. Does Symantec Endpoint Management still have the SEP integration component?
Yeah, so Mark actually talked to that one,
Yeah.
but I'll address that one. So we do, and in fact, we have enhanced that. So one of the things that we've done over the last couple of years is move to more of a release update cycle. So RUs, as they come out, they're very predictable now, about a 12-week cadence, and we've done a number of things in the last year to provide more and more of those easy buttons, I'll call them, on the SEP side of things, right? So the agent hygiene, we get a lot of calls on certain things with the SEP agent, and what we've wanted to do is make sure that in that console we've given you easy buttons to take advantage of that as well.
Perfect. All right, let's just keep going with easy questions. How can I enable the web console for Ghost Solution Suite?
Yeah, so all you've got to do is install the new version. That's the good news, right? So it's enabled for you by default. You just need to install the new solution. So you will need GSS 3.3, right? So this is, again, new with the GSS 3.3. And look for more detail. One thing, I know this wasn't the question, but I'm going to just say this anyways, is there's a lot more features than we've been able to cover. And that's a good thing, right, for all of us. So you'll see more detailed webinars come out with Ghost Solution Suite and also IT Management Suite as we move forward. But by default, again, the short answer is it's there, but there's some other things we want to talk about with Ghost that we're excited about. So look for some more details on that as well.
And a similar question with that, is the software portal included in ITMS, or do we need Ghost?
Yeah, so it's included as part of any of your Symantec management platform purchases. You need at least have software management, right? So client management, IT management suite, those would all have the software portal functionality. And again, if you're not using software portal, I would highly encourage you. I think pretty much everybody talked about it. It is a fantastic, end user shopping cart app store like approach for your end users, and really will cut down on some of the overhead that you have in terms of getting policy management out there for your end users.
Great. Now, we had a lot of questions when people were listening to you talk about your migration. They want to know, where were you? What versions were you using before then? And a couple people want to know, can you upgrade to ITMS 8.5 from 8.0? So maybe we can ask where it was you started in this journey. I knew we heard from Mark at the beginning that it was 8.1.
So we were at 8.1 RU7.
Okay.
We were also 8.1 RU7. We jumped on RU7 right away because we knew the release for 8.5 was coming, and we figured that would be a prerequisite.
Okay.
We were on 8.1 RU7 also.
So for us, we were on 8.1 RU4. We hadn't gone to RU5 yet, or 7, and that was one of the prereqs that we did have to take a little more time with our upgrade, because we had to go to RU7 before we could get up to 8.5.
Okay. And we will, incidentally, we will have the migration paths available for you in documentation on the website. So take a look at that. That gives you all the different options. But I think it's fair to say that staying in the latest and greatest is a good idea, not only for quality fixes, things of that nature, but also for new features as they come out.
So one of the questions really was, can you go from 8.0 up to 8.5?
You can go from 8.0 to 8.5. So you have to be on the latest RU there, but you can go from 8.0 to 8.5.
All right. And then, just like Asham said, it's click, click, click from that point on.
That's right.
Definitely.
Going to be our new slogan.
There's one thing I'd like to add, if I could.
Sure, go right ahead.
So if anyone has used the old DS solution and they knew about how fast, software was delivered in DS versus NS, well, in 8.5, that's back. The speed of delivering software in the way you could with the old DS system, it's back. I mean, it's incredible, the WebSocket technology. That is something that you guys will not, I cannot tell you how much you're going to appreciate it. I don't have the words for it, but once you get into it, you'll be like, oh, where was this at? They should have had this in 8.0, 8.1. Where was it at? So I'm gonna blame you.
Yeah, they'll blame me. Yeah,
Bob's always to blame. But having that, having that, progress bar, right, and the ability to do it instantly, those kind of things, kind of brings back some of that. I call it tactile feedback, right, that everybody wanted and used to have, like you said, in DS. So it kind of gets you back to some of that functionality.
And I would just want to also add to that same instant feedback like that is also available over cloud-enabled management as well. So
absolutely,
which is really cool.
Fantastic.
Well, good. Well, we've really appreciated that. And we're coming up against it right now. But there were other questions, and some of you might not have heard when I said it earlier. We are recording this session, so you will be able to watch it again, watch it over and over again, just for all of your great click, click, click comments. I know you'll be watching. Your wife will be watching. But also, we're going to be recording all the sessions that we're going to be doing, so we're going to get those out to you, and the materials will all be available on that Bright Talk site. And just a couple more things. If you need to learn more information, well, that went away. You can go to go.symantec.com/manage or ghost.com. And you'll get everything. You'll find out, the webinar videos. We'll try to get everything out there. We'll get it going. We really have appreciated everyone's time. We appreciate you, gentlemen. We appreciate all of you for being out here today. But from this webinar, we just want to thank you for being a part of it. And we will talk to you again very soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Systems management, IT management, configuration management, client management, endpoint management, or whatever name you may know it by, has been around for a long time. And yet, we still hear about organizations who were breached because they hadn't deployed a patch that was already available, or don't have the real-time visibility needed to powerfully protect and manage their endpoints. some still use manual IT processes instead of taking advantage of automation. It doesn't have to be this way. With Symantec Endpoint Management, you can manage, patch, and fully remediate endpoints to strengthen endpoint security and maximize user productivity. Symantec provides deep visibility of the devices and software being used in your organization, who is using them, and what state they are in. With historical and real-time data at your fingertips, you can make the right decisions and take the right actions, such as scanning for vulnerabilities and quickly deploying the appropriate patches and updates across operating systems and commonly used third-party applications. Symantec Patch Management is architected to provide the most efficient and scalable distribution of patches, even for low-bandwidth sites and remote or roaming endpoints located outside the corporate network. Remote users get the same software and patches as all other users, and do not disappear from your purview regardless of how often they connect to the corporate network. With Symantec, all users are managed the same, whether working at home, on the road, or anywhere in between. Symantec Endpoint Management further expands its value and capabilities through integration with other Symantec products, including Symantec Endpoint Protection, SEP Cloud, and Control Compliance Suite. Symantec Endpoint Management solutions strengthen endpoint security and maximize user productivity with the versatility you need in today's rapidly changing world. To learn more, visit go.symantec.com/manage.